Hi, my name's Heidi Kirby, and welcome to Secrets to a Healthy Lifestyle Summit. And the reason I'm doing this summit is to bring our audience knowledge on how to improve their health using natural solutions. And today I've invited LiLan to speak on Chinese medicine. Welcome, LiLan.
Thank you, Heidi.
LiLan Xiang Weiss is a nationally certified licensed acupuncturist practicing in Durham, North Carolina since 2005. She is the founder and steward of Ammonia Health LLC, a wellness center with English and Spanish-speaking practitioners that covers the full spectrum of care from physical, emotional, mental, energetic to one spiritual well-being. For 12 years, she's practiced and ran a community acupuncture clinic to make Chinese medicine more accessible in her area. In her private practice, she is focused on digestive wellness, women's health, and mental emotional well-being. She is the co-developer of Tones for Your Bones with musician husband Alec Weiss, teaching the embodiment of Chinese medicine philosophy of the 5 elements through Qigong, acupressure, meditation, and reflections. She's originally from Taiwan, grew up in Central America, and has lived in Durham, North Carolina since 1996 when she came to attend Duke University. Well, welcome. Thank you for coming. And one of the reasons I chose LiLan is because of her passion and intense knowledge around Chinese medicine and its benefits to our health. So let's get started with our interview. And why don't you tell us holistically an overview on Chinese medicine?
Sure, I'd love to. So because I'm from Taiwan, I grew up with some of those Chinese medicine concepts of a balanced way of living. And so I grew up with the concept of like to everything, there is a balance of maybe like if something's going wrong, we look at maybe the opposite way to balance it out, and I'll talk more in detail about that. But I realized that it was a philosophy that really resonated with me, in part because when I started to look at the way the pace of sort of life in America, when I came in 96, I wanted to study medicine, and I found that the actual job of the medical profession was so not in tune with how I wanted to live, and it was just too much. The lifestyle was overwhelming for me. And so I found that Chinese medicine both provided the knowledge and philosophy of how to live in balance with oneself and have a lifestyle that was in tune with oneself. And so I started my journey with the studying because I wanted to live in balance. And I think in part it's my astrology sign that I learned very much from experience first, which is also, I think, a great way to go about it. So we always, give to oneself first, because that reverberates, to those around us and those we serve and those we love. And so do you see how, just from me saying that, there's that play of balance, it's so that is a concept of the yin and the yang. Yeah. The receiving and the giving, the more receptive versus the more sort of forward moving concept. So the foundation actually of Chinese medicine relies a lot on the yin, which is the stillness, the reflection. Feminine is one aspect of it, but it's more than just, it's not just gender based. It is the opposite of kind of a capitalistic linear world. That is the basis of Chinese medicine. It's like where everything comes from. And so that's why Eastern practices in general have that, are relaxing, are about how to be in harmony within ourselves and with our environment. And overall, I think it's a great way to live, just because we know, for example, we'll talk about, toxins in our surroundings or internally. We all sort of carry stress or feel stress in different ways, physically, mentally, emotionally, maybe spiritually. So I love living what I've learned, and I love sharing what I've learned.
Great. And you just touched on a topic that's very poignant for our summit, toxins, and how to reduce the toxins in our body and in our mind, spiritually, emotionally. So why don't you spend some time, and how do you approach that using Chinese medicine?
Sure. So there's two main concepts that Chinese medicine has brought in around toxins. And it actually comes from the historical progression of over 3,000 years of the Chinese medicine history, where originally the tradition focused on external influences. That's a little bit more of the shamanic traditions. So that means the actual environment, the weather patterns, which we know 3,000 years ago, there was no electricity, no indoor heating, plumbing, all of that, right? You were completely subject to the external environment, right? So that is still pertinent, so that includes the toxins that are now present as, chemicals that our cells can't really integrate sometimes. So there's the external part. There's the external sort of interaction with the people around us that we have maybe some resistance to, and so, yeah, I think that sort of covers, right, the external. Then the progression of the medicine over, the last 1,000 years or so is that then there's an aspect of the internal toxins. And that includes our thought patterns. That's why there's such a wealth of tradition around meditation and different practices of meditation, which Qigong is one of them. And then there's the aspect of our organ systems, where if they're not functioning optimally, doing what they're sort of born to do, then toxins can accumulate more easily. And so that becomes part of like internal medicine, of how to balance and facilitate the movement of toxins, on a physical level, on an energetic level, on an emotional level. So those are the two principles. Yeah.
And how do you use these Chinese medicine? Like, say people have heavy metal toxins in their body, for an example.
Well, so I'm going to step back a little bit because my specialty is not necessarily heavy metals, which I know other practitioners are, and that's great. So what I like to take people through in their journey, I like to start with the physical aspect of the body. And so moving out heavy metals is part of that physical medicine. We could say functional medicine these days, which is I absolutely love. Because it ties in various systems, just like Chinese medicine does. So to start out, for those of you, who are new to this healthy lifestyle, spend a good amount of time on your physical health, so that's the basics of the movement, the sweating, the sleep, the pee and the poop, which Chinese medicine really likes to look at. Because that practice, which is also a foundation of Qigong, which will be kind of an intersection, the idea is that when the flow of our physical body is more efficient, okay, it's not about being perfect at all. It's more efficient. then the other systems like the emotional and the mental systems will be easier to work with. And so that's been my both experience over the years in my practice. I focused a long time, probably 10 years, on like studying functional nutrition. And then I was teaching about abdominal massage with one of my teachers through the Arbigo Institute. And so I like to present to the Western audience and just the audience in general, the understanding of our physiology. Yeah, and how to use that efficiently. So then from that, once you have a certain grasp of your physical health, and like I said, it's not about perfection, it's just about getting certain aspects in place. And many times it's about the routine of regularity, you know, which is a big key in what Chinese medicine holds as the center of the digestive process. It's like the little things that you do. Yeah. Then from there, if you want to then move into the energetic, emotional aspects of healing, like through Qigong, through meditation, through breath work, what else? Even like aromatherapy, I think would count. It's like a physical and energetic and mental, emotional medicine. Then there's more efficiency in your body to take in what's useful, be able to use it and assimilate it, and excrete what's not useful.
So in talking about the physical aspect, let's spend some time on digestive and gut issues, because they seem to be pretty prevalent.
Yes. Yeah. I have a blog post that I wrote back in 2013 about the digestion in the gut. And back then I called this aspect the mother of all elements, which is digestion in Chinese medicine is the earth element. This year, though, I'm going to tweak the English language a little bit, and because I'm moving into somewhat not gender neutral necessarily, but just a different way of looking at that term of mother. So what I mean is that back then, when I said the mother of all elements, it was like the center, right? That kind of makes sense. So digestion in Chinese medicine is starts to, just like functional medicine, starts from the mouth. Yeah, it starts from our salivary glands. It starts from our chewing. And it's both the physical nourishment that we take in, and it's about the then digestive process that happens at the stomach as our stomach acid and enzymes start to work. Then it's how effective it is with that first initial digestive process, right? Then it goes into the small intestine. And that's where physiologically we know we absorb, our minerals and vitamins, yeah, and the proper nutrients go into the bloodstream. That part of digestion in Chinese medicine is called assimilation. Okay, and then we know from the bloodstream goes to the liver, which has hundreds of functions, but one of them is to detox, right? And in Chinese medicine, the liver has a function of both, we say, nourishing our blood. So you heard me talk about how blood from the small intestine is carried to the liver. So there's aspect of connection to blood that I'll talk about a little later of what blood means in Chinese medicine. And so, yes, the liver kind of takes care a little bit of like what's not useful, what's useful. And then that nutrient through our circulatory system goes to our other organs, right, for nourishment. Then digestion continues into the large intestine, which is, helps with our electrolyte balance and the water balance in our body, as well as then the elimination of the fiber and the bacteria, the microbiome, and kind of really what's not needed. And that's the letting go part. Okay. So all of that, we understand that physiologically is digestion. And then you heard me talk about sort of the metaphors in Chinese medicine around that, right? So when I was starting my practice, I decided to focus on the belly through digestion and through all the organs there, because I did see it as the center of our whole body, our whole psyche. So I've tended to focus on digestion a lot as a starting point, also as a grounding aspect of being here in our physical body. And because it has so many intersections with both various organs, as well as energetics. So it's like, you know, you focus on one thing and you influence many others, which is really the core of any traditional medicine, rather than, you know, a very specialized sort of delve deep into, which is great. But yeah, that's how, you know, Chinese medicine is structured.
Right. And if your digestion is not working properly, you have a host of issues.
Correct. Yeah. And, you know, touching upon, you know, we talked about sort of what we take in as food or drink, and then there's the toxins that come with it from the environment, right? And then there's the aspect of, in Chinese medicine, that digestion is also about information. And so it's sort of like when you listen to maybe a talk, you know, you take in what you can and what's useful, yeah, because that's what you can absorb at that time. Yeah? And then, you know, you come back to other aspects of it later. Because there is, I say, our bodies can be slow to digest, you know, literally and metaphorically. And so we each have a rhythm, right? And so information is like that too. And so I might say to clients sometimes when they've gone to like a retreat of sorts, something where there's, or even going through school, you know, we all went through school and all that studying, right? And we know we don't remember like half of what we learned. That's because I say our bodies take time to digest and assimilate information. And the beauty of I think Eastern medicine, of why longevity is important and why there's so many practices for longevity and well-being, is because time allows us to learn and integrate what we learn. So that's that digestion of information, you know, which is what's so great about summits like this, because yeah, there's such a wealth of knowledge present these days that there's really almost no excuse.
Really, that's a good point. Let's shift a little bit here and talk about the emotional, spiritual, mental parts of Chinese medicine.
Sure. So after the physical understanding of that balance and harmony, I like to then present the emotional connections to the organ systems.
Oh, great.
Yeah, because that's kind of I feel like it's a fairly easy way. Of course, it's presented to you through thousands of years of practice, you know, through humans and discernment. Yeah, but you can always take it, you know, hear it and see what you think. So, for example, the stomach and spleen and pancreas, the emotion that is encumbered, meaning that it's, you know, a little more encumbered is the word I like to use.
Okay.
Is worry and overthinking. Okay. And then the liver organ, the encumbered emotion is frustration, impatience, and anger. And so you can see that spectrum, yeah? Then we can talk about the kidneys, which are still in the abdomen. They're not quite part of digestion, but I like to present them because they're in the belly and the backside. Those work with our fears and our issues around like security. Yeah. So that could be money. That could be, actual physical safety, emotional safety. So that's the emotion. Then, let's see. Large intestine, I present that one, is connected to the lungs in Chinese medicine because they all occur in pairs. And that would be delving a little deeper. But large intestine is our letting go organ. We literally, right? We have to poop things out, would be good. And so letting go is the aspect, and what can be held, the encumbrance emotion is grief and sorrow. And anxiety can fit into a little bit around large intestine. Anxiety can also kind of be around the spleen, stomach, or heart systems. Yeah. So
that was fascinating.
Yeah. Did I cover those digestive organs and their emotions? Yeah.
I think you did.
Yeah.
What about the small intestine?
Yeah, small intestine is connected to the heart and pericardium systems in Chinese medicine.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is another system that there is a lot of practice and information on, because it can be also put at the center, kind of like heart-centered practices of compassion and loving kindness. When it comes to the small intestine, it's a really interesting relationship, because basically what our heart like emotionally can't handle, we say there's a term called what your true pure heart can't bear. The pericardium is the heart protector, literally. And then it has another helper, which is the small intestine. And small intestine is meant to, because it's a hollow organ, and that also has a particular significance. It means it moves things out because it's hollow. And the key word I like to use is discernment. So that's not so much an emotion, right? But you can maybe, if you're a visual person, the way I see it is like, I put this here, I put this here, I categorize it, You might start with the word good or bad, just as a practice, until you get to a point where, those words aren't necessary, But for some people that is necessary, to be very clear in that discernment, okay? And that's what heart and small intestine does. It's like basically like, I might like sweets, but it's become a craving, and it's really just a dopamine response. But maybe because of my age, my body just can't take in that much sugar or refined carbs anymore. Maybe it could, 20 years ago.
Right.
So that's what we say is the discernment of the heart. And that comes from experience and trial and error. So sort of like we know something, right? We might have immediate gratification, but then our bodies say like, no.
Right. I like to use the word practice. It is a practice. It's a life practice.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So that's the small intestine. And then I had mentioned assimilation, earlier with the small intestine, because then the idea is like what we discern is truly good for us, it assimilates.
Okay.
And what it doesn't, then it continues to the large intestine, and we let that go.
So kind of what I hear you say as an example, correct me if I'm wrong, but say somebody comes to you and they're highly anxious, they worry, they fret, they may have issues in their stomach. But where you hold emotion maybe is where you're going to have the most distress in your body. Is that accurate in looking at it that way?
It can be, yes, because where there's the most emotional distress over a long period of time, and it's stuck there. That's the key, because we can have all those emotions, but it's the aspect of it being stuck and stagnant there. Then possibly over time, that organ system can manifest with physical symptoms. Yes.
That's an excellent point. It's stuck. The energy is stuck there.
Yep. And because when we say the energy, and I like to use the word chi or prana, for example, it where it's stagnant for a long time, the relationship is that the blood physiologically will also be a little inefficient, or stagnant is the Chinese medicine word. But I like to, physiologically means that the blood flow is not as efficient in that area. For example, like diaphragm, we have our spleen, stomach, liver, right? If our diaphragm muscle is tight due to long held emotions and shallow breathing, then yes, that nerve flow and circulation flow can affect the function of the organs right next to it, out of pure just relationship of, proximity.
Makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, is there any other thing or topic you want to discuss before we wrap up?
Sure. Yeah. So I presented kind of big topics that I call like how to digest your universe, but really my sort of passion and goal of how to make this all accessible is to take all these pieces of information and actually play with them and practice them, like you say. And so that's why with my husband, who's a professional musician, and about 10 years ago, I said, hey, I like to use some of your music because creativity, I say, is the key to your health. Actually, you want to bring in creativity because otherwise it I don't know, it's just more fun that way, right? And so him bringing in music that fit to the various elements of Chinese medicine, there's 5 that kind of relate to those emotions I was talking about. And then bringing aspects like, hey, for food, this element, this is the flavor that will satisfy that. So play with that, be conscious and aware of it this week while you eat, So for example, when we talk about liver and the wood element, look at your greens that you eat that week. Are you getting them every day? Are you looking outside to look at the trees? Because that's actually another great aspect of balancing, the liver.
Wonderful.
When we talk about digestion and wood and liver, we play with the greens in that week that you're eating. We play with, are you looking out at the trees? And so that's part of the play and the creativity part. And then the music set to it is meant to like move you through frustration, for example, of the liver, with the liver energy. So that's called Tones for Your Bones. And then Qigong, which is a practice of how to be in movement in your body, but be still internally, is also meant to help with the flow of the various organ systems, as well as help with joints and mobility. And so so Tones for Your Bones will cover sort of a physical medicine. It'll cover the knowledge. It'll then ask you, I give little cues of how to practice that at home. And all of that is placed together in both in person as well as online series with recorded videos.
Yeah. And so for our audience, how did they gain access to that?
Yes, so this is the season of summer into late summer is the earth element or earth phase or earth path, and it's all about digestion. And so I'll be presenting that, in about a month or 6 weeks or so. And I wanted to give your audience 20% off their payment and registration of that online portion. I imagine some people may be in our area, and I will be doing an in-person.
Okay.
But yeah, so
wonderful. And I'll make sure our audience gets all the information they need to register and execute their discount code. So thank you. This half hour has flown by, and I feel like we just scratched the surface. But thank you so much for guiding us through the whole thing about digestion and balance. and how it affects our emotions and how our whole digestive system is more than just digesting our food.
Yeah.
And so I thank you for coming, and we're going to say goodbye. And our audience is really going to enjoy learning about this. So
Thank you, Heidi, for having this summit, and it was great talking to you.